Before Dr. Harold Greene discovered the truth about sweet fruits, he was like most seasoned physicians, firm in his belief that anything sugary, even from nature, was a silent threat to his diabetic patients. He watched as seniors struggled, despite strict diets, their energy drained and sleep restless, caught in a battle they were told they could never truly win. But then came a quiet shift. Patients who introduced plums and cherries into their daily routines began experiencing something rare: stability, relief, even lightness. Their blood sugar didn't spike, it softened. Their nights grew peaceful, their joints ached less, and slowly the fear around fruit dissolved. This story follows that journey from skepticism to surprise, from sugar fear to fruit freedom, and shows how the smallest changes at your kitchen table might just change your life. Have you ever been told to avoid something healthy that later turned out to help you? Drop your story or thought below. We'd love to hear it.
Welcome to Stories True Health, where real stories meet real science. Guided by Dr. True, we uncover the hidden truths behind aging healing and the choices that shape our future.
For over 4 decades, Dr. Harold Greene had seen it all, from the worried frowns of newly diagnosed patients to the silent resignation of seniors battling unstable blood sugar. Despite following every rule, his modest clinic in Burlington, Vermont, had become a sanctuary for those worn down by diabetes. He had read every guideline, prescribed every medication, and seen countless patients strip sugar from their diets only to watch their glucose levels still swing like a pendulum. Something didn't add up. The prevailing belief had always been clear sugar in any form was the enemy, especially sweet fruits. Yet a growing number of his elderly patients began to report something strange: small improvements in energy, digestion, and even mood after eating fruits long considered off limits. Intrigued and slightly skeptical, Dr. Greene began digging into recent scientific findings and stumbled upon a breakthrough that changed the way he practiced. In a 2022 study published in the Journal of Nutritional Biochemistry, researchers at the University of California found that certain fruits rich in specific types of polyphenols and natural fibers didn't raise blood sugar levels the way traditional sugars did. In fact, some of them even helped improve insulin sensitivity and reduce post-meal glucose spikes. This wasn't hearsay or folk wisdom, it was peer-reviewed science conducted on human subjects and replicated across multiple trials. One fruit in particular stood out in the study: the plum. Often overlooked in grocery store aisles, the plum contained a powerful compound called sorbitol, a sugar alcohol that is absorbed slowly in the intestines, leading to a more gradual rise in blood sugar. Combined with its high content of soluble fiber and polyphenols, the plum demonstrated a surprising ability to regulate glucose while simultaneously supporting digestive health. Dr. Greene reflected on the countless times he had advised patients to avoid sweet fruits, unknowingly depriving them of what could have been a natural ally. What if these so-called sweet offenders were actually misunderstood healers? As he sat in his office one late autumn afternoon, the wind rattling the bare branches outside, Dr. Greene decided to test a new approach. He would start with a single patient, a woman in her late 60s who had struggled with bloating, fatigue, and roller coaster sugar levels. The solution he offered was not another pill, but a fruit she hadn't eaten since childhood. "Try eating just 1 plum a day," he said gently, handing her a small card with instructions. "Let's see what happens." What happened next not only surprised the patient, it redefined how Dr. Greene viewed the role of food in healing, and so began the journey into what he would come to call the plum puzzle, a forgotten fruit with hidden power. When Linda Harper, a 68-year-old retired school librarian, returned to Dr. Greene's office 3 weeks later, something was different. Her steps were lighter, her face calmer, and for the first time in months, her glucose log showed a consistent pattern. No sharp peaks, no mid-afternoon crashes. More surprising than her results was the cause: nothing had changed in her medication or activity level. All she had done was start eating 1 plum a day before lunch. For years, plums had been largely dismissed in diabetic dietary advice because of their sweetness. But what Linda's case revealed, and what science is now beginning to confirm, is that not all sweetness is created equal. Plums are rich in soluble fiber, particularly pectin, which slows the digestion of carbohydrates and the absorption of sugar into the bloodstream. But the real game changer is a compound called sorbitol, a naturally occurring sugar alcohol found in plums that acts as a mild laxative and a blood sugar stabilizer. Unlike glucose, sorbitol is absorbed, slowly resulting in a more gradual and controlled release of sugar into the blood. In a 2020 study published in Nutrients Journal, researchers from Seoul National University found that plum extract supplementation significantly reduced fasting blood glucose and improved insulin sensitivity in individuals with metabolic syndrome. The study attributed these effects to the antioxidant-rich polyphenols in plums, which reduce inflammation and enhance insulin signaling pathways. Linda herself noticed more than just better blood sugar. Her digestion had improved, she no longer felt heavy or bloated after meals, and her sleep had deepened. "It's the first time in years I didn't wake up at 2 a.m., feeling restless," she told Dr. Greene. Intrigued, he began recommending plums to a small group of his older patients, particularly those who suffered from sluggish digestion, energy dips, and erratic glucose patterns. In each case, the outcome was similar: better gut function, improved mood, and more stable blood sugar. Plums were proving to be more than a nostalgic summer fruit. They were a quiet ally in the battle against diabetes and age-related metabolic decline. Their low glycemic index, high fiber, and slow metabolizing sugars offered a trifecta of benefits for older adults seeking natural support. Inspired by Linda's success, Dr. Greene began compiling recipes and snack combinations involving plums fresh with Greek yogurt and cinnamon, or dried prunes paired with almonds for a gentle 3 p.m. lift. As word spread through the community center, more seniors began sharing their stories, bringing bowls of sliced plums to morning potlucks, and exchanging tips on the best varieties to buy. But just as he was growing comfortable with his plum discoveries, another unexpected fruit began showing up in patient journals, a deep red, slightly tart berry that seemed to soothe both joints and nerves. And so, the next chapter in Dr. Greene's journey unfolded, leading him toward a surprising transformation. Chapter 3, The Cherry Turnaround, Healing Through Red Simplicity. Raymond Cole, 72, had been a regular in Dr. Greene's office for nearly a decade. A retired carpenter with hands worn by years of labor, he battled chronic joint pain, restless sleep, and creeping numbness in his feet, common symptoms for aging adults with type 2 diabetes. Despite medications and physical therapy, his mornings remained stiff, his nights broken by aches, and his blood sugar prone to unpredictable spikes. One visit, as they reviewed his latest glucose chart, Raymond mentioned something curious. "I've been drinking a small glass of tart cherry juice before bed," he said. "Don't know why, but I sleep better, and my knees aren't screaming in the morning." Intrigued, Dr. Greene investigated further. He discovered that cherries, especially tart varieties like Montmorency, were gaining attention in the scientific world for their powerful anti-inflammatory and antioxidant effects. In a 2019 study published in the European Journal of Nutrition, researchers from Northumbria University found that daily consumption of tart cherry juice significantly reduced high sensitivity, C-reactive protein, HSCRP, a key marker of inflammation in older adults. This reduction was accompanied by improved sleep quality and decreased joint pain, particularly in participants with osteoarthritis. The mechanism lay in anthocyanins, the pigments that give cherries their deep red hue. These compounds not only reduce inflammation, but also act as natural pain relievers by inhibiting enzymes involved in the body's inflammatory response, similar to how ibuprofen works, but without the gastrointestinal side effects. Additionally, cherries contain melatonin, a hormone that helps regulate the sleep-wake cycle, making them uniquely positioned to support both rest and recovery. Raymond continued his evening cherry juice routine, and over the next month, his numbers told the story: fewer morning spikes, steadier readings throughout the day, and fewer pain complaints. "I don't need my heating pad as much anymore," he grinned during a follow-up. Encouraged by his progress, Dr. Greene began suggesting cherries, fresh frozen or unsweetened juice, to patients experiencing inflammation, nerve tingling, or sleep disturbances. Results were promising. One patient, a 66-year-old retired teacher named Carol, reported clearer thinking and better focus after adding cherries to her breakfast. It aligned with findings from a 2021 review in Antioxidants Journal, which linked cherry consumption to improved cognitive performance and reduced oxidative stress in aging populations. For Dr. Greene, Cherries became more than a bedtime snack. They were a symbol of how nature quietly provides what the body truly needs. Not synthetic fixes, but gentle, consistent support. Yet, as more patients reintroduced these fruits into their diets with surprisingly positive outcomes, one question kept surfacing in the doctor's mind. How had these foods been labeled dangerous for so long? That question would lead him into the heart of one of modern nutrition's greatest misunderstandings. Chapter 4. Why Sweet Doesn't Always Mean Bad, Busting the Fruit Myth. For decades, mainstream advice to diabetics had been brutally simple: avoid sweet fruits. To most doctors, anything containing fructose or natural sugar was automatically placed on the danger list. Dr. Greene once followed this doctrine without question. But after watching patients like Linda and Raymond improve through daily servings of plums and cherries, he knew it was time to challenge a deeply rooted myth that sweet always means harmful. The truth, as he had begun to realize, lies not in the sugar content alone, but in how the body processes that sugar. Unlike refined sugar found in baked goods or sodas, the natural sugars in whole fruits come packaged with fiber water, antioxidants, and other phytonutrients that drastically change the way they affect blood glucose. A 2018 study published in the British Medical Journal examined the effects of fruit consumption on type 2 diabetes risk in over 500,000 individuals across several cohorts. The findings were eye-opening. Higher intake of whole fruits, particularly berries, apples, and stone fruits, was associated with a significantly lower risk of developing diabetes, while fruit juices and processed fruit snacks showed the opposite trend. Why? Because fiber plays a crucial role. Soluble fiber found in fruits slows the absorption of sugar into the bloodstream, preventing the rapid spikes that damage blood vessels and led to insulin resistance. It also feeds beneficial gut bacteria, which are now known to influence metabolic health through the gut-brain axis. Furthermore, many fruits like plums and cherries have a low glycemic index (GI), meaning they cause only a gradual rise in blood sugar. The glycemic index is a scale from 0 to 100 that ranks carbohydrates by how much they raise blood glucose. For example, the GI of a plum is around 40, while a slice of white bread scores about 75. That difference matters, especially for older adults whose insulin response may already be sluggish. Dr. Greene began teaching his patients how to pair fruits with protein, or healthy fat cherries with a handful of walnuts, plums with plain Greek yogurt, or a few prunes alongside some cottage cheese. These combinations not only enhanced flavor, but further slowed glucose absorption and promoted satiety. Slowly, the fear around fruit began to fade. In group sessions at the community clinic, seniors shared their discoveries, trading recipes and snack ideas with enthusiasm. It wasn't about indulgence, it was about trust. Trusting that nature, when respected and understood, could be an ally rather than an enemy. As Dr. Greene stood before a chalkboard one Wednesday morning, sketching out the glycemic load of various snacks, he paused and smiled. Sometimes healing starts not in the lab, he said, but at the kitchen table. That idea, simple, nourishing, and profoundly human, would become the foundation for what came next. Chapter 5. Healing begins at the table. Small habits, big shifts. It was never about giant transformations. That's what Dr. Greene had learned most clearly in his years of practice. Real healing didn't come from massive overhauls or strict meal plans impossible to follow. Instead, it began with one small, mindful change repeated daily, something as simple as eating a plum before lunch or adding a few cherries to breakfast. These gentle adjustments, when done consistently, had the power to shift not just blood sugar readings, but how people felt in their bodies and minds. Science backs this up. In a 2021 study published in the journal Diabetes Care, researchers from Harvard T.H. Chan School of Public Health found that patients who adopted just one healthy dietary habit, like increasing their fruit intake by a single serving per day, saw measurable improvements in insulin sensitivity and reduced markers of systemic inflammation within 6 weeks. That's not theory, it's biology responding to small acts of nourishment. But theory only goes so far if people don't know how to apply it. Dr. Greene began creating what he called fruit habits, simple, non-intimidating routines tailored for seniors. For example, place a small bowl of fresh plums by the kitchen sink as a visual cue, or keep a bag of frozen tart cherries in the freezer and scoop a handful into oatmeal every morning. For those on medication or tight schedules, he advised pairing fruit with something already in the routine, like eating a plum right after morning pills or sipping cherry juice during evening TV time. These habits didn't require new shopping lists or expensive supplements. They simply asked patients to work with what was already familiar, replacing one less helpful item, like a cookie or a salty snack, with a fruit that supported healing. The key was consistency, and the reward was often subtle, but profound: steadier energy, smoother digestion, calmer moods, better sleep. For many of Dr. Greene's patients, these benefits built trust, not just in their doctor, but in themselves. They began to believe again that their bodies were not broken beyond repair, that age didn't have to mean decline. The kitchen, once a source of confusion or guilt, became a place of quiet power. And as Dr. Greene watched his patients laugh together over cherry parfaits or pass around prune recipes at the community center, he realized something important. Healing is not only about the science, it's about hope, and hope begins at the table. As we close this journey, one truth rises above all others. When we choose with intention, even one bite at a time, we reclaim control over our health, and perhaps over our joy. Let's reflect on what this all means in the final thoughts ahead. The smallest choices often carry the greatest power. This story isn't about magic cures or overnight fixes. It's about paying attention to what your body truly needs and daring to try again with something simple like a piece of fruit. If plums and cherries could make a difference for someone else, they might for you too. So, why not start today? Try adding one of these fruits to your routine and see how you feel after a week. Healing doesn't always happen in a hospital. It happens in quiet kitchens and everyday breakfasts, in the small habits we choose again and again. If this story gave you something to think about, share it with someone you care about, leave a comment with your own experience or question. And don't forget to subscribe for more real stories that heal from the inside out. What's one small thing you've changed in your diet that made a big impact? Let us know below.